All right, what's up, everyone? Pretty pumped today. We're doing another breakdown for you. Got MESHKI today. Very, very cool brand. Very stylish. Love the way that they are kind of approaching email. It's a little bit different. So there's some cool stuff that we can talk about with this. That I think is going to be pretty um, educational, especially if you're in kind of a luxury fashion brand or something a little bit more elevated and are trying to communicate that with your email. But yeah, just before we jump in, just a reminder, my name is Brian. I'm one of the co-founders of Flow Candy. We do a ton of these breakdowns all the time. So if you enjoy this type of content, you get value out of it, just head over to our website. You can find dozens and dozens of these: Treff, Dr. Squatch, She and David, Feastables, Vacation, Road, etc., etc. So lots and lots of good stuff if you want to go take a look. But let's go ahead and jump in. Just as a reminder, there will be a full swipe file that you can download. So make sure you've grabbed that, and then we also have the campaign benchmarking actual document as well. So this campaign benchmarking, this is what we do with this is it's a way to analyze how a brand is performing with their campaigns. It's an analysis of the frequency that they send, how often they're sending promotions, just their general traffic numbers, the angles that they use in there. And we score the brands, compared to what we've seen in a few other, or like our feedback is based on what we see as a whole after looking at dozens and dozens, hundreds of brands, over the last 5 years or so. And so, this gives us a pretty good understanding of, what are they doing? What do we want to emulate? What can we take from them as ways to use or as strategies to use for other brands we're working with, or obviously for you, if you want to, incorporate some of this stuff in your own brand. So let's start with frequency. So they are sending, it varies a little bit. There are some outliers here, which, the other thing to remember is that when we're pulling these emails, we can't be sure that we're getting every single email. So, we've got really, really low numbers over here for March and June 2025. But averaged out, taking those outliers out, we're looking at somewhere around 13 emails a month. Okay. So that's a pretty good schedule. That's around 3 to 4 per week, which is something that's a great. We've kind of found that that's like the sweet spot. I feel like for a lot of brands is right in that kind of like 4 a week, 3 or 4 a week is perfect. And so the most surprising thing with this, though, is that it's not that surprising when you start to think about the type of brand they are. But their promotional frequency is only 7%. There are some months in here where there's not a promotional email going out at all, which is pretty cool to see. You have to have a very strong brand, which we'll talk about. They do have an extremely strong brand to be able to get away with that. So many brands are built off of discounting, and there's no promos in here. For this February 2025. So, you have to kind of look all the way into, all right, here's the first sale we've seen in the last, in 2 months of that entire time. So really interesting to see, like, they are really, really, really low in terms of the frequency that they're sending promotions and offers. It seems more so like they are more focused on very particular sales seasons, this is common, with brands like this that, we do X amount of sales per year. It might be 2 or 3 or something like that. And you're really focused in on a certain season or a holiday that ends up being like massive for you. And so you'll see here, like, I think this is, mid-year sales. So here's one of their sales, and they've got a couple emails throughout, this is, I think, June of 2024. So you can see kind of the back half of the month is all around the sale period. And then I think another one is obviously holiday. They had some stuff around, let me see here. Yeah, so you've got Black Friday, of course. And so there's a good amount of emails in there. But overall, excluding sales seasons, they are super, super light on promotions. And most of their emails are really a lot more focused on other angles that we'll talk about here in a second. But real quick, let's look at their traffic. So 6.5 million visitors to their site over the last 3 months. That's great. I mean, that's huge. It's in the same ballpark as like a lot of the competitors like Halara and those other types of brands like that. 3.8 million on Instagram, 1.1 on TikTok, and YouTube is pretty low. It's obviously they're not really focused on YouTube as a channel for building traffic. But when you're getting this type of traffic coming from, especially nurturing type channels like Instagram and TikTok, you really can kind of pick and choose when you want to do these types of sales. You can pick and choose how you want to really present yourself, and you can really guard your brand. And something we'll just talk about it now. Some things that I see in here is that they're not following like the conversion focused playbook for email marketing. There's a lot of kind of things that they're doing that aren't, they might lower like click-through rate or that kind of thing, which a quick easy example would be like they never have a CTA in their hero images, and that's something that, especially if you want to, here's one, and it's obvious because there's a headline here. So this is the other thing I was going to say is like all of their headlines are more oriented towards having an actual like brand vibe, right? The Secret collection, or no, Segretti, the Segretti collection, the layering edit, holiday eventing, countdown ready, black dress edit. It's more about content and lookbook feeling. Their emails read like a magazine, which is what they want to emulate. Vogue, having something, this very like clean lifestyle aesthetic, like aspirational kind of, look at this like gilded furniture style. There's no prices. That's another thing that you'll find really frequently with luxury brands is like price doesn't matter. We're not talking about that. And so, this is something that I think is very indicative of, where they are as a brand, is that you can get away with these types of things. You can have a little bit more space to just be yourself, and really stick true to that, because that kind of thing promotes sales at a certain level. But that's not to say that brands that want to be like this can just come in and start that way. That kind of media or that kind of like ability is earned. You have to have these kind of traffic numbers in terms of the huge amounts of exposure and people coming to the site to be able to survive off of something like that. There is just earlier on going to be reasons to kind of focus on the conversion focused stuff too, because you got to make those sales. You got to, if you want to be a cool company, you got to be a company, because you have to be alive. So you got to keep the brand afloat. But yeah, let's jump into the other angles that they're doing. So promotional, we already talked about this, very rare, mostly seasonal promotions. The content they have, what I like about how they talk about products is that every single one is actually very oriented towards, a certain holiday or location or event. It's thinking about, okay, what are our customers thinking about right now? Okay, so let's see. Let's find a good example. Let's go to the summer. Summer is better. It's easier to show. So it's we've got July and August, right? So what are people thinking about in July? The vacation edit, right? So they're thinking about what they're going to read or wear on vacation. They're looking for things that are poolside. They are looking for summer essentials. Another one in here that I loved was there wasn't one here, but they do locations. So like Saint-Tropez, or I think there was like an Italy one. Here's a bridal collection. That's another example of the type of stuff that they would be showing. But you can see this is kind of very grease coated. Or they actually have, I think, different, see locations and what to wear in each location. So they're thinking about their vacation and how they're going to look there. And that's the type of content that they're actually putting together. I can't find one of these location ones. I think there was one over here. Let's look. Is this one? No. But oh, here's another good example. Shades of sorbet perfectly served. So um, another way that they're featuring a collection is color, right? And then you've got galantines over here, and I promise I'll find one of these location edits. Where are they? No, that's not it. Well, if you look through here, you will definitely find one. Dolce Vita, another kind of version of that. Dolce Vita. Oh, man. Where? Ah, here we go. Finally. Mediterranean itinerary. So, showing again, like the locations and what to wear, and, shop the look. Here's Paris and what to wear. So that's a very cool kind of way of thinking about, and how, if you're a fan of MESHKI and you are reading this email and it's, June or whatever, June 2024, and you have a trip planned for August to go to Capri or to go to Paris or to go to London, like, how into looking at this and purchasing are you going to be? Like, that's a very niche, but very representative of their type of customer. And so, it's a really cool way of doing content that I think is super unique. They have back in. So let's get back to the angles. They have back in stock for sure. We looked at a ton of these, like the product launch, collection focused, product focused. We kind of already talked about it: color, fabric, pattern, style. There's a lot of different ways that they can kind of feature in there, like that sorbet one that we talked about. The product launch stuff is more around patterns or different things like that, but definitely there. They used a couple text-based emails. Let's look at the content of them. One, I believe, was about a new change in their shipping or return policy. Here's free express delivery. It's more offers, it seems like, when they do their text-based stuff. I think the other one, let's see, here it is. This one is the full refunds on full price styles. So they're more like in between transactional and promotional in terms of how they are actually how they're actually positioned. But still, there is some offer. That other one, the free shipping thing, is definitely an offer. So they're utilizing that as well. Trending now, of course, that's a lot of the summer edit kind of type of stuff. And then loyalty appears to be super new for them too. So if you look over here, as of June of 2025, they're now introducing the M list. So their loyalty program with their different tiers. And another interesting thing to see is that their email persona is evolving quite a bit. Oh, here was the Saint-Tropez. But their email aesthetic is evolving quite a bit. They're starting to use this this kind of pale yellow color as a background now. It's getting a little bit more bold in terms of the actual offers and how they're positioning that. So I'm curious to see if this might be something that is more from the automation emails, because you can see this is a welcome series email. So I'm curious if that's just what their automations look like versus their campaigns are still more this clean white look. But you can definitely see there's some evolution happening right now, at least from the emails that we were able to collect from them on this period. So let's look at there were some miscellaneous angles too. So we talked about the bridal already, but this is something that actually, it's obviously have a huge bridal collection. And so when it comes to, wedding season, it's a very frequent angle for them. I think there's you have the bridal here, and then there was another where they're hitting it pretty hard. What month are we in? This is August, so I would expect it more to be around spring. But yeah, using the, really trying to focus in on certain events, as I mentioned. Here we go. Yeah, February. This is the bridal collection, because that makes sense, because it's like spring and summer is kind of wedding season, right? So you have more revivals of the, looking at the wedding collection and that type of thing. Galentine's, I showed you that. Shop the Edit. I really, this is a consistent, I think, on brand for pretty much all, luxury and fashion brands, is the Shop the Edit. And, it really comes down to just like putting together a collection of certain, products that go together, and having a very tight kind of, all right, purchase this stuff together, and you're done. You have the outfit that you need. So I think that's always a great angle for fashion brands. And then last one was the location-based content, which took me forever to find. I'm sorry, but here's that example again. Is what we wore in San Tropez. So looking through and like really location-based type stuff, where you can actually see, okay, this is the vibe of this place, and what we're wearing. So yeah, and so that's what I found with MESHKI. MESHKI's emails are, they're, as far as design goes, super clean, really product focused. Like I said, reads like a lookbook or a magazine. Very few CTAs. I guess I was wrong. Be rewarded, join the M list. It's on all of these other emails. I should have noticed that before. But this must be their just one of their automation emails to get people to join the M list. But yeah, it's a very cool brand, and I think a great way to toe that line between it's a great example of how do I be promotional without being too promotional. How do I make sure that we're promoting our sales, but most of the time our emails are focused around product, lifestyle, and selling that kind of aspirational vision of who you want to be. So MESHKI is a great example of that, and I would recommend for anyone to take a look. If share it with a friend or someone that that runs a fashion brand, they might get something out of this. And it's just as a reminder, if you love this, come back and take a look at any of our other brands and see if there's something else in here that piques your fancy. And yeah, let us know if you have a suggestion as well. We're happy to do breakdowns of stuff that you want to see. But until next time, have a great one, and we'll chat with you later.